Exposed wife's infidelity. Later she tried to justify it, but I already knew the truth. Someone else had already stepped into the silence she left behind, and I had already made my choice. My name is Mark Leland. I'm 42, a former aviation lawyer from Austin, Texas. After my marriage collapsed in a storm of betrayal, I left everything behind: the job, the house, the noise, and rented a remote cabin high in the Swiss Alps. I wasn't looking for peace, just silence. Her name was Anna, 29, a model with eyes like she'd seen too much. She showed up one night in a silver dress, soaked in snow, running from something she wouldn't yet name. We were strangers, both escaping, both broken in ways neither of us wanted to explain. This is the story of what happened when silence met truth, and how the coldest place I'd ever been became the warmest. My name is Mark Leland. I'm 42, a former aviation lawyer from Austin, Texas. After my marriage collapsed in a storm of betrayal, I left everything behind: the job, the house, the noise, and rented a remote cabin high in the Swiss Alps. I wasn't looking for peace, just silence. Her name was Anna, 29, a model with eyes like she'd seen too much. She showed up one night in a silver dress, soaked in snow, running from something she wouldn't yet name. We were strangers, both escaping, both broken in ways neither of us wanted to explain. This is the story of what happened when silence met truth, and how the coldest place I'd ever been became the warmest. I didn't come here to find peace. I came here to stop hearing her voice. The cabin sits at 1,600 meters above the Oberalp Pass in Switzerland, surrounded by fir trees tall enough to eclipse the sun before noon. No neighbors, no tourists this time of year. Just snow, wind, and silence deep enough to press against your chest. I arrived in January with a backpack, a journal, and no real plan. The owner, a musician, had listed the place online as a retreat for people who have nothing left to write about. I booked it the same night I signed my divorce papers. That was 11 weeks ago, and now it's March. The snow is beginning to melt, but the nights are still sharp. The roads below the mountain remain half closed, which suits me just fine. I haven't spoken to another human being in 5 days. Tonight, like most nights, I sit by the fireplace in a wool sweater I didn't own before all this. I read the same 3 books over and over. I cook pasta. I drink weak tea, sometimes wine, and try not to think about Natalie. She was an art curator back in Austin. We were married 10 years. She had cheekbones that could cut through glass and a tongue just as sharp. I used to love her intellect, her chaos. I used to think I needed it. Turns out all that chaos had a name: Theo. He was 27, a sculptor, sensitive, vegan, the kind of man who called himself a vessel for creative force. I paid for his first exhibition. I even helped write the press release. I remember the night I found them, or rather I remember the sound, not the cheating, the silence that followed. That cold silence when Natalie looked at me and didn't flinch, didn't apologize. Just said, "You've always been too quiet for me, Mark." She meant it. The lawyers were louder. She wanted half. She wanted my name taken off the foundation board. She wanted the house. She didn't get the house, and the trust protected that. But she got everything else. And I walked away not because I lost, but because I stopped caring who won. Here in the mountains, the world is mute. Even the birds seem exhausted. I built a rhythm: wake, make tea, chop wood, read, sleep. And still her voice followed me, not in words, in absence. The shape of her missing from the chair. The glass I no longer had to pour for 2. Until tonight. Around 10 p.m., while the fire murmured and the snow hit the window sideways, I heard it, pounding. At first I thought it was wind. Then, unmistakably, a human hand. 3 knocks. Hesitant, then stronger. I stood. My body was too slow, too unused to urgency. At the door stood a woman, maybe late 20s, soaking wet despite the down jacket draped over her like a cape. Her boots were muddy. Her dress glittered beneath the coat. Her cheeks were raw from cold. "Hi," she said, voice shaking. "I didn't mean to intrude. I think I got lost." I blinked. I hadn't spoken all day. She looked behind her. There was a party down the slope. The road was supposed to loop, but I kept walking and then the path vanished. She didn't cry, but her eyes were wide. Not scared, just empty, like someone who'd been burning fuel for too long. I stepped aside. "Come in." She hesitated for a second, then nodded and crossed the threshold. Snow pooled around her shoes. I closed the door, sealed the wind back outside. She didn't sit. She didn't take off her coat. Just stood there, shivering quietly, eyes darting across the room like she was memorizing it. "I'm sorry," she said again. "I didn't know anyone was up here." "Not many are," I said. My voice sounded foreign. She glanced at the fire. "May I?" "Go ahead." She knelt by the fireplace, palms out. Her fingers were red, the skin chapped. Up close, I noticed the edge of smeared mascara and a bruise on her wrist. Faint, but visible. She hid it quickly under her sleeve. "I'm Mark," I said. "Anna." We didn't speak for a while. The fire popped. I poured her a cup of tea from the pot on the stove, handed it to her wordlessly. She murmured thanks and wrapped her hands around it like it was the first warm thing she'd held in hours. After a long pause, she said, "Do you live here?" "Number just renting, for the season." "Lucky." I looked at her, skeptical. Most would say otherwise. She almost smiled. "They haven't tried the alternative." Outside, the wind picked up, whistling through the chimney. The cabin creaked slightly, as if adjusting to her presence. I should have asked more questions. Why she was out in the snow alone. What kind of party ends with a woman hiking into the wilderness in heels? But something in her posture, the way she crouched by the fire, not asking for help, just heat, stopped me. Instead, I fetched her a dry blanket from the bench and laid it beside her. "Thank you," she whispered. Then silence again. Not the kind that follows heartbreak. A quieter kind. The kind that waits to be broken. She sat on the floor near the fire for a long time, not saying much. Her wet boots steamed beside her. The down jacket had slid from her shoulders, revealing a silver dress that looked like it belonged in a magazine spread, not in a snowstorm at 1,600 meters. I tried not to stare. She noticed, of course. "Fashion retreat," she said dryly. "It's a real thing. Rich people pay to be told they look timeless in beige wool." I raised an eyebrow. "And you?" "I model, or used to. It's complicated." The way she said it made it clear she didn't want to elaborate. Not yet. She held the mug with both hands and sipped slowly. Her nails were chipped. I noticed a faded tattoo under her collarbone. Numbers, maybe a date. It was barely visible under the firelight. "You live alone up here?" she asked. "Yes." "For how long?" "Long enough." She nodded. Didn't press. I appreciated that. After a few minutes, she stood, carefully, and wandered toward the window. Her breath fogged the glass. The wind was still howling. "There's no way down tonight," I said. "The slope's too slick, even if you had boots." I figured. "You can sleep here. Couch pulls out." She turned to look at me. Not with gratitude, not with suspicion. Just a quiet, level gaze, like someone assessing whether I was dangerous. "Thank you," she said finally. "I don't mean to mess up your retreat." "You didn't," I lied. She smiled faintly. "You're very good at solitude. Practice." She picked up the blanket and curled into the corner of the couch. The firelight softened her face, melted the harshness. I turned back to my chair, opened my book again. But I didn't read. Because now there were two ghosts in the room, and one of them had a heartbeat. When I woke the next morning, the cabin was quiet, but not in the way I was used to. There was a smell I hadn't smelled in months. Cinnamon, faint but warm, like childhood mornings that didn't belong to me. Anna was already up. The couch was folded, blanket neatly stacked. She stood barefoot in the small kitchen, wearing one of my flannel shirts over her silver dress. The sleeves swallowed her hands. "Hope you don't mind," she said. "I found tea." "You made tea?" I asked, still half asleep. She nodded. And toast. I found old rye bread in the tin. Don't worry, I scraped off the green parts. I smirked despite myself. She handed me a mug. The steam was soft against my face. I took a sip. Cinnamon and something floral. Not bad. We sat at the table. She looked better, less glassy, more grounded. She stared out the window as she ate, quiet but not tense. I was born in Szeged, she said. Hungary. Flat lands. Hot summers. I left at 16. Milan first, then Paris. Always running. I nodded, unsure how to reply. Fashion gives you everything fast, she continued. Money, praise, travel. But it costs your voice. You become a product, eventually a tired one. Her tone wasn't bitter, just factual. And now? I left, she said. Or tried to. They invited me to this retreat to rebrand. Instead, I saw the same old men, same eyes. She paused. So I walked. I watched her. Something about her calm made me more nervous than if she'd been panicked. Do you always walk away from trouble? I asked. Only when there's nowhere left to stay. She turned her eyes to mine. Director, measured. I looked away first. We didn't go outside that day. The clouds sat low over the ridge like the mountain was holding its breath. Inside, we read, ate simple food, passed a single book back and forth, underlining in pencil. It wasn't until late afternoon that she asked, what did she do? I didn't pretend not to know who she meant. She? I said. She got bored. Anna didn't smile, just waited. She said I made life too quiet, that I was the shadow beside her, not the light. And you? I thought I was the structure, the place she came home to. I stood, poked at the fire. Turns out she didn't want home. She wanted a story. Anna leaned her chin on her knees. So did I. I looked at her. She kept her gaze steady. I was 18 when I first walked a runway, she said. 22 when someone offered me a plane ticket and a private project. I said no. They laughed, said I'd say yes next year. Did you? Yes, she whispered. I wanted safety, and it cost me everything. Her voice didn't crack. That scared me more than if it had. We were quiet for a long time. Then she poured us both a splash of wine from the bottle I kept by the sink. It was cheap. She didn't complain. To silence, she said. I lifted my glass. To breaking it. We drank. Later that night by the fire, she asked, what's the worst thing she said to you? I didn't hesitate. She told me I was furniture. You're stable, Mark, like a table, solid, just not exciting. Anna shook her head slowly. Tables hold things up. We didn't say anything after that. The fire said enough. Anna slept on the couch again that night, though I offered her the bed. She declined, said the couch was less permanent. I didn't ask what that meant. By the third morning, we had a rhythm. Shared coffee, took turns by the fire, played a silent chess game neither of us truly cared about winning. The storm had passed, but neither of us rushed to leave. It was during a late breakfast that she asked, do you ever think about going back? To what? I said. Your old life, Austin, the house, the courtroom? I let the question sit. The house isn't mine anymore, I said finally. Well, technically it is, but I don't live in it. She tilted her head. Who does? No one. It's empty. Full of boxes. She wanted it, fought for it, then decided she'd rather live in a loft with Theo. I kept the house just to keep it from her. Now it's just vacant. Anna stirred her tea slowly. That sounds expensive. I can afford it. She didn't press, but her eyes asked for the rest. So I gave it to her. Natalie married into the idea of me, I said, not the reality. She loved the dinner parties, the firm, my partners, my name. But when it came time to share the silence between two people at night, she flinched. I stood, crossed to the window. The snow outside had begun to recede in soft dips along the hillside. She asked me once, in the middle of a dinner, if I could smile more. Said people might believe I was proud of her if I looked less internal. And were you? Anna asked. Proud? She nodded. Yes, at first. She was driven, creative, impossible, but it came with a price. I sat back down. The table creaked beneath my elbows. She cheated. I suspected it for a while, long nights out, new friends with studio names, but I had no proof until I walked in early from a flight and found his jacket on our chair. Anna waited. She didn't apologize. She rationalized. Said passion doesn't obey contracts. That monogamy was a construct, and that if I were truly enlightened, I'd see how small my thinking was. She said that? Anna asked, eyebrows raised. She said a lot, most of it in a voice that sounded like pity. I took a long sip of coffee, now gone cold. She wanted the house, my car, half my retirement. Said we'd built a life together and she was entitled to its scaffolding. She wanted the firm to keep her name on the donor wall even after the divorce. And she wanted to keep my mother's silver. Anna blinked. Did she? No, I said, smiling for the first time that day, because I saw it coming. Years ago, I moved half of my assets into a family trust under my sister's name. Natalie never knew. She tried every tactic. Letters, mediation, public shaming. Did she go public? Of course. She told the gallery community I was emotionally abusive through silence, that I gaslit her by not arguing, that I weaponized calm. People believed her for a while. Anna exhaled. That's a new one. I kept every message, every voicemail. When it came time for court, my lawyer handed the judge a thumb drive and said, "Let the record speak." It did. Silence. Anna reached for her mug again, but it was empty. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't be. I won." She didn't get what she wanted. Anna watched me, then said softly, "But you're still here." That landed harder than anything Natalie ever said. I opened my mouth, closed it again. "She's not on the mountain, Mark," Anna added, "but she's still living in your silence." She stood and went to the window. The clouds were lifting. "I don't know what she cost you," she said, not turning around, "but don't give her your exile, too." I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure I disagreed. 2 days later, we walked into town. The storm had passed. The path was slippery but clear. Anna borrowed a pair of my boots, 3 sizes too big, and laced them tight with wool socks. She moved carefully, but with purpose. The town, Oberalp, wasn't much. A handful of chalets, 1 grocer, a cafe, and a train station that ran twice a day in winter. I hadn't gone down since February. People stared, a few nodded. One old woman offered Anna a small apple from a basket, unprompted. At the market, I bought coffee, bread, and a tin of sardines I probably wouldn't eat. Anna picked up soap and asked, politely, in charming, broken German, for the smallest jar of honey they sold. She insisted on paying for her things. "I don't take charity," she said. "I didn't offer," I replied. She smiled. First time all day. We sat outside the cafe for a while, drinking tea under a heat lamp. She asked me questions I wasn't used to. Not about my past, but about things like books, colors, favorite meals. Not what happened to you, but what makes you feel normal again. I didn't have answers, but I liked that she asked. On the walk back, she said, "You could stay angry. That's a choice. But eventually it starts to feel like wallpaper. You stop noticing it, and then it defines your walls." I looked at her. "Did you just quote yourself?" "Maybe." We reached the ridge as the sun began to dip. She took a deep breath of cold air and said, "It's easier to breathe up here." I nodded. But what I didn't say, not yet, was that it had nothing to do with altitude. That night, Anna made lentils and rice with cumin. I don't know where she learned to cook like that, but the smell filled the cabin and made it feel more like a home than it had in months. We ate by the fire, not talking much. Later, she lit a single candle on the table. Not for ambiance, just because the overhead bulb flickered, and she said, "Let's give the silence a little dignity." After the plates were cleared, she asked if I wanted to play cards. I didn't, but I said yes. Halfway through a second game of gin rummy, she laid down her cards, leaned back, and said, "You're afraid of me." I laughed once. That obvious? Only when you look at me like I'm her. I didn't reply. Anna reached across the table, not to take my hand, but to push one of the cards back into the deck. "You don't owe me anything, Mark." I'm not trying to fill her space. I'm trying not to have one of my own. Her words hit clean. "I've built a cathedral around what she did to me," I admitted. "Every stone made of things I didn't say." "Then let's not build anything," she said. "Let's just sit in the field beside it." We were quiet again. Then she leaned forward, slowly, openly, and kissed me. Not long, not forceful, just enough to leave a warmth that wasn't from the fire. She pulled back. "You don't have to decide anything now." "I already did," I said quietly. She nodded. "Then let's sleep, no promises, just rest." She curled up on the couch again. I didn't offer the bed this time. We'd both already stopped pretending this was temporary. We'd been in the cabin together for 6 days when the knock came. Mid-morning, calm. Sky pale blue above the trees. Anna was chopping vegetables. I was reading an article I'd saved about building a raised garden bed. When I opened the door, Natalie stood there. No warning, no message. Just her, in a cashmere coat and boots too clean for this mountain. "Mark," she said, eyes darting past me. "Can we talk?" Anna didn't move from the kitchen. She didn't need to. Her presence grounded the room. I stepped outside. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I needed to see you, to talk. You've been unreachable." That was the idea. She looked down. "I made mistakes, but we were something. You can't just erase that." I folded my arms. "I didn't erase it, I buried it. It's different." She stepped closer. "And now this girl, this model you barely know." I raised a hand. "Don't." Natalie's mouth opened, then closed. "She's not a replacement," I said. "She's not anything to you, and what we were, you already dismantled." She sighed. "You're bitter." "No," I said. "I was. Then I stopped drinking from that well." For a long moment we stood in the cold. Then Anna opened the door behind me. Not dramatic, not territorial, just real. She held out a scarf I'd left by the chair. "Don't forget this," she said softly. I took it. Natalie looked between us. Her face didn't collapse, just cracked. "Goodbye, Natalie," I said. I turned and walked back inside. Anna was already stirring soup again, like nothing had happened, like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. And for the first time in over a year, I felt something new, weightless.